from the crowd. Make me lie down in that field over there. We can touch the stars, and if we really want to, we can learn to live without a care. Will we ever remember the truth? All the misunderstandings of childhood and youth have clouded our vision, made heavy our load through the dust and the smoke of this rock and roll, rock and roll, rock and roll road. This rock and roll road. Take me away from the hurt. Make me a bed in a room with a view. Let me lie down in your arms. Let your love be an ocean, bright green and deep blue. Take me forever, take me today. Give me an afternoon no longer with you. You know that I love you, though I'm not sure why, or till when or with whom. Take me to the west, take me to the east. Give me a princess, but leave out the beast. Show me the way, explain me the code, for I'm hurting too much to return to that rock and roll road. That rock and roll road. Take me away from the pain. I just want to be quiet. I'm not who you think. Please allow me to lose it again. Old heroes might swim, but I don't mind if I sink. Will we ever remember the truth? All the misunderstandings of childhood and youth.
We are here today to bury Gill's body and to remember her. The body is where she lived for the past almost 55 years. But on this earth, she now lives in our memories. In the end, the body was weak, but memories get stronger for being shared. I've been looking through photos recently. Some of you will know that that's how I think. Gill would write wonderful stories about holidays, full of humor and interest. And I just sent a photo album, maybe with some labels for the photos. Looking through the photos, it's quite clear that in the digital age, the problem is that we end up with too many photos. So it is also for me with my memories of Gill. There are just too many of them, from an inconsequential thing like just a smile, to her acting silly and having us all in stitches. When I first met Gill in Italy in 1997, she was one of the top paraglider pilots in the world. I was there to fly my first World Cup. We bumped into each other in competitions over the next few years, but we didn't stay in touch until she came to fly a competition in South Africa in 2000, and I arranged their accommodation. That August I moved to join her in Scotland, and that December we were back in South Africa flying another competition. That's how I most remember Gill from the early years, as a top, fantastic paraglider pilot, always hanging in there and managing to scrape out some extra lift when nobody else could find it. reluctant to come down to earth. She was also full of enthusiasm for flying and for life, always warm and friendly and helpful. I also remember how angry she could get when I offered to help with something. She couldn't stand it when she thought somebody thought she might not be able to do something, especially if she thought it might be because they think she can't do it because she's a woman. In that competition in December, I won a task the one day and then got told that Gill had crashed and was in hospital. That was the first time I saw her in hospital. Fortunately, it was nothing serious. A week later, I asked her to marry me, and 3 days later, we got married. Her excitement when she was pregnant. She got all the books and read them. She was so interested in the process and everything that happened, how it felt, even though she had incredibly bad morning sickness that put her in hospital for 10 days. I remember her crying when we had a power outage. She'd sat up for hours expressing breast milk so that she could freeze that and send it to nursery to feed Hannah. And all of that milk had to be binned when it defrosted. When Nina was born 6.5 weeks premature, she sat in the hospital from morning to night every day, sitting by her. I remember the sweetie stops when we used to take the girls hill walking, and the singing on the way down to keep their spirits up. She was wearing pink pajamas. We'll all have stories of her kindness, her willingness to help, and to stay and chat. Her incredible love for her kids, her drive, her dedication, and her organization skills that she brought to so many things. When she finally got round to doing something for herself, she took up horse riding again, only to end up putting in so much work to get a horse-based social enterprise off the ground. What she put in was, as usual, so much more than she could ever get out of it. Her dedication to work must have made it quite hard for her managers. She always carried over more flexi time and more annual leave than was actually allowed. Even living with cancer in the last 2 years, she'd still always put other people above herself. One of the hardest lessons for me was to stop telling her to slow down. It just led to unhappiness and stress. Even then I couldn't keep up with her. Being too ill to work, in her mind, just meant that she finally had time to do all the projects around the home that she'd been wanting to do for years. Gill was the strongest, most amazing, beautiful woman ever, and she was the best thing that ever happened to me. Now finally she gets to rest, possibly for the first time in her life.
Oh, somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue, clouds high over the rainbow, makes all your dreams come true. Ooh, someday I wish upon a star, wake up where the clouds are far behind, be where trouble melts like lemon drop, high above the chimney top. That's where you'll find me, oh, somewhere over the rainbow, blue time. I see trees of green and red roses too. I'll watch them bloom just for me and you, and I think to myself, oh, what a wonderful world.
I wish I could remember when I was very little a bit better, because I can't really remember much about Mum before Nina was born. I do remember when Mum used to take me places. Cockle Roy Hill was somewhere we used to go as a family, and House of the Bins too. And I always wanted to know what was in the big yellow tower. But I remember that there was a woods full of snowdrops and peacocks near the big manor house. And Deep Sea World was my favourite though, and I accidentally nicknamed it Dipsy World when I was really little. And Mum stubbornly insisted on using the nickname even when I was old enough to A, know I'd misheard the name, and B, actually read the sign. I'm gonna miss Mum embarrassing me like that, and dancing when my friends were around, which was super embarrassing. And I think I'll miss just talking to her the most though. I love you, Mum, and goodbye.
I'm glad I could spend the first 12 years of my life with such an amazing person. I hope I can be like you in every way. You taught me not to stress about small things, and you taught me to be grateful about everything and not to take anything for granted, from the smallest things to the biggest things. I'll never forget how you used to sing to me when I was sad, and I used to sleep with me in my bed when I was sad as well. I loved how you used to take me riding, and we used to ride together and go on hacks. I've never met someone with such an amazing personality as you. For nearly 55 years you have lived on this earth as you, and when you were 39 you lived on in Hannah, and when you're 42 you lived on in me as well. Now you can live on in all of us, because you've changed everyone's lives. I wish I could be more like you in every way. I will never stop thinking about you and how you have changed my life in every breath you took. And even now, while your breath has stopped, you are still changing me for the better. You have made me who I am, and there is no way to thank you enough for everything you have done for me and everyone else. Your body is motionless, but you are not, and you will never be, and I will see you in everything that happens. I will try my hardest not to disappoint you in my life, and want you to know that everything I do, I will always be thinking of you. And I love you so much, more than anything else. I would die 1,000 times to give you your life back. Love you. Goodbye.
I can see a rainbow in your tears as they fall down. I can see your soul grow through the pain as they hit the ground. I can see a rainbow in your tears as the sun comes out. As the sun comes out. I am here and I see your pain through the storms, through the clouds, the rain. I'm telling you, you cannot escape. You can do it, just feel, baby. I can see a rainbow in your tears as they fall down. I can see your soul grow through the pain as they hit the ground. I can see a rainbow in your tears as the sun comes out. As the sun comes out. Here comes the sun, smiling down. Here comes the sun, smiling.
Many people don't realise that Gill's first Christian name is actually Fiona. From an early age, Gill decided that Fiona was a little pretentious, and therefore decided that she wanted to be called Gill. She's always been Gill, and has always been unpretentious. She didn't wear makeup. She didn't dye her hair when she became grey. She had no interest in wearing the latest trendy clothing, although she did wear a pair of remarkable orange boots on her last trip to hospital. She had more pairs of hiking boots than dress shoes, more waterproof jackets than evening wear. She was honest, faithful, loving, reliable and transparent in a world where these values are increasingly rare and precious. She was loved by everyone. She unfailingly kept in touch with everyone. She was the family's nerve centre and communications hub. She was the glue for a family which was fragmented by geography. She loved being outdoors and being a part of this environment where we are today. This is a fitting place for Gill to rest for eternity.
My sister Gill, my dearest darling sister, we have laughed, we have cried, we have run side by side, we have even bathed together. Despite being the opposite side of the world for the last few years, we have remained so close and connected in every way. We have battled for the last 2 years against this nasty, ferocious disease, but throughout you have remained positive to fight the good fight and take as many means possible to defeat it. You have endured so much, but throughout have been so brave and resolute. Darling Gill, you were taken too soon. None of us are ready to let you go, but wallowing in self-pity and misery is not what you would want. You would want us to get on with life, make a difference, enjoy the important things, look after each other and remain strong. Gill, I promise to ensure, despite the unprecedented current situation that we're all facing, the connectedness and positivity that you drove within our family will remain. Rest well, my darling, after the valiant battle you deserve to be at peace and out of pain. You may not be at the end of a phone or a video, but you'll always be in my heart. As Dr. Seuss said, don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened. I smile because of your legacy of 2 wonderful children. They are a tribute to you. You're a shining star for them and will remain bright in their lives forever. I'm proud of the work you did, and most particularly for being you, Gill, my sister. Rest in peace, my darling, as you would say. Love and hugs. Jew. Kiss, kiss, kiss. Mr. Gill. Cheers.
Hi, this is Will Trujillo here, and I first knew Gilly in the late 80s when she was at Bristol in the zoology department doing her PhD in the Mammal Research Group. This is Gilly in the New Forest at a Mammal Society conference held in Southampton, on to one of Gilly's many talents which we will miss. As an amateur but very accomplished barber. Gilly started in Bristol in 1987 and her PhD was on lactation in foxes. And for this she hand-reared some foxes so they were semi-tame so she could study them more easily. One of the tasks people in the research group will remember fondly was a daily visit to the student refectory to pick up leftover food or slops to take to feed to Gilly's foxes. Gilly learned to dive when she was in Bristol. This was on a dive trip with the University Dive Club off Cornwall. And she was of course fearless in throwing herself into the air or off a cliff. This is a group photo just prior to an abseiling adventure in the Mendips. And she was famous for her paragliding. Here she is after just landing with Al from the research group. As Al said, it was a great day, great memory and a great photo of Gill. She looked after me, bless. Gilly made friends easily in Bristol. Here she is with Steph on a holiday together in Norway. Steph and Gilly were so close they became known as the superorganism, finishing each other's thoughts and sentences. And here she is at a party in Bristol in the early 90s. After Bristol days we caught up again when a group, including me from Nottingham, passed through Edinburgh, coinciding with Gilly's 30th birthday. And here she is with Tim at the party. Tim was another Bristol friend who Gill also managed to take paragliding in Scotland. My thoughts are with you, Johan, Hannah and Nina, and with everyone who knew Gilly and who wants to celebrate her life.
Gill came to live with us in Bristol 30 years ago while she did her PhD on foxes. She reared numerous orphaned fox cubs, often taking them to bed with her for warmth. On one occasion she woke to find a cub firmly attached to her nipple. With Gill living in the house, we never knew what to expect. One day she turned up with a clun ram she had bought for some friends as a joke. They didn't see the joke, and we had to keep him until she found another home for him. She survived the arrival of our baby daughter Catherine, supporting us in every way to make the transition into parenthood much easier. Always going for an adventure, she agreed to camp on Lundy with 10-month-old Catherine and me when we went there for a friend's wedding. We helped cook and clean for the wedding and narrowly escaped being blown away when a storm blew up. Gill and I lay on either side of Catherine, listening to the rubber bands holding the tent down snapping one by one. Catherine slept throughout, but I don't think we slept a wink. Surprisingly, living with our family didn't put Gill off having children of her own, and we have loved visiting you all over the years and always enjoyed such an amazing welcome.
Only two of many memories about Gill. We first met her when Johan brought her to our house in Walpaterand in Pretoria about 1999. A stunningly beautiful young woman came barefoot and in shorts to meet us. Wow! Introductions, small talk, etc. And then Johan noticed a smallish snake on the pavement outside the front door. He grabbed it behind the head and showed it to Gill. She was thrilled and fascinated. That fixed it. She is our girl. A different memory. I visited them in West Terrace Blackness for 3 weeks after Hannah was born. This was a different Gill. Caring, gentle, proud. I watched as she fed Hannah, held her tight, bathed and dressed her. A mother. After the birth of Nina, a small, premature, vulnerable little fighter, I experienced the same tender care Gill smothered her with. During all my other visits in Scotland for the school holidays, I could experience the dedication, involvement and fun in the way she raised the lovely girls. They are truly her greatest legacy.
When I switch on my computer, a photo comes up of our family. 8 adults, 7 children and 1 dog. And on the left of the screen, there's a striking face. Long black hair, lovely open face, wide smile. That is Gill. That is how I always will remember Gill. A friendly person, strong. Her hospitality was through the years was wonderful. I will also remember when we first went over to Scotland to where she and Johan lived. We stayed over at Don and Margaret, her parents, in Leicester. And they were so friendly and prepared food for us, Yorkshire pudding, etc. That was Don, her father. But only later on we realized that the British people are not in general like that they take you into their home and they give you a bed and they give you food. They usually go out for food. When they take you out. But that was how Gill also was, like her parents. She grew up like that. We only heard of her pre-Johan life, a very interesting life that she had. But we saw her performing with her work and in her home, and she was special. She was special. And we will remember Gill for the love that she showed to her kids, loyalty to Johan, loyalty and love to all of us. Yes, we will remember Gill.
I first met Gill when she was doing her PhD in Bristol and living with the Cillian Mel. She introduced me to the nightlife of Bristol's urban foxes, and we would drive around in her beautifully restored Morris Traveller Timmy, tracking tagged foxes or picking up ones that had been killed on the roads. She had a way with animals and hand-reared many fox cubs which went on to be tame and affectionate, and happy to allow her to handle them. We had many trips together, but perhaps our biggest adventure was a trip to the Comoros Islands in 1991. Gill and her friend's Steph had been playing at sticking pins in a world map and then finding something interesting about wherever the pin landed. Gill's pin landed in the Comores, and it turned out there was a critically endangered endemic species of fruit bat, Livingstone's giant flying fox, that lived there. So Gill came up with a plan that the two of us would go on a reconnaissance trip to try and find the bats and what they were feeding on, that then might lead to a larger conservation project to protect the bats. At the time, the cheapest flights were with Aeroflot via Moscow and Madagascar, so that was the way we tried to go, and it soon became rather a lesson in global politics. We flew into Moscow airport, but were then told that our flight to Madagascar had been cancelled because of an attempted coup that had destroyed the runway. So we were in Moscow airport with no visa or the right sort of money. We were offered flights back to London, but knew that would be the end of the expedition, so we waited in the airport and joined the community of lost travellers living in the terminal. Some people had been there for several months. After a few days, we realised that there was no chance of continuing through Madagascar, and one of our fellow travellers suggested we could fly to the Comores via Nairobi. So after 5 days in the airport, we managed to get on a flight to Uganda. Neither of us had any experience of Africa, but we managed to get a bus to Nairobi, and a few days later flew to the island of Grand Comore. There, a cheerful official at the airport told us there was extra security because there had been an attempted coup the day before. Our exciting travel continued with a rather scary trip to the island of Anjouan on a ferry, where we were hoping to find the bats. After several weeks of trekking in the rainforest, we did find the bats, and that they were eating from a kapok tree, and we were able to sit under the tree at dusk and watch the world's largest bats come flying in and then drop bits on us as they fed. Our travel home back through Moscow was less eventful than the outward journey, but keeping with our theme of attempted coups, there had been an attempt to remove Gorbachev from power while we'd been away, and this eventually led to the collapse of the Soviet Union. Gill approached everything through the trip with her cheerful, sometimes slightly naive optimism, and her confidence that everything would turn out all right. And it usually did.
What can we say about Gill? Wonderful person, beautiful, her lovely black hair. I'll always remember Gill's lovely, lovely black wavy hair. And she was just so good at everything. She was good at sport, whether it was paragliding. She was always the best woman at paragliding in Scotland. She was in the World Cup. She was just amazing, and so brave. And I remember about her landing her paraglider in Lake Como, and she nearly drowned, and she got her knife, because she was very prepared, was Gill, and she got her knife. She was cutting and cutting and cutting, trying to cut through the lines to get loose from her paraglider, and she so nearly drowned, and then actually realised that her head popped above the water, and it's actually been her boot lace that she'd been trying to cut on. So clever as well with her PhD, and just a lovely, thoughtful friend. I remember when I broke my leg 26 years ago, actually, to last Friday when we lost Gill, and I broke my leg, and she sat on the top of the mountain behind me so I wouldn't fall backwards, so I wouldn't move, and just talked and just chatted, and just such an understanding friend. And then the next day in the hospital, it was an emergency, I didn't have anything with me, and I remember her running into the ward brandishing this Marks and Spencer's 5-pack of underwear. I've never seen anything so unsexy in my life, and it was so uncomfortable. But anyway, and I think one of my best memories of Gill was one rainy night, and it was in Edinburgh, and we'd been to a hen night, and Gill was always a bit of a tomboy, and we'd been to the hen night, and it was okay, but it was a bit boring, and the guys were up in Glencoe, and that was way more interesting, so I was like, we need to be in Glencoe, right? And I can't quite remember why we didn't take Gill's faithful Timmy. Anyway, there was another, what type of car was it? A Fiat Uno turbocharged, very fast, much better. So I suppose we could say we borrowed it, but I think actually technically in the law we actually stole it and drove as fast as we could up to Glencoe. And I just remember I was brushing my hair and Jill was laughing, and neither of us had a care in the world, and the fact that we could have been stopped and charged with theft of a rather smart car didn't occur to either of us. But it was just such a laugh. And Jill was always somebody that was practical as well. And I remember asking Jill about how you get rid of the thorn bushes in our garden when we bought the house here. And I was thinking about Jill just the other day, not realising she was so ill, and it's probably I remember sort of thinking, I must go in and email Jill. I've still got 18 years on, still got these stupid thorn bushes, and she was somebody that you could ask about. I remember telling us about how to worm our first cat, and always great with advice about the in-laws, and just everything just so lovely. And I fly high, dearest Jill, and away from the pain, and you'll always be in our thoughts and always be in our hearts. And I think what's the most important thing, though, is to say that you'll always live on, and Nina and Hannah and Juha. I know they meant so much to you, Jill. And yes, Jill.
Dear Jill, ever since I was a little girl, I admired my loving, daring, animal-mad Auntie Jill. I aspired to be just like you, to be adventurous, to ride crazy horses and jump off mountains like you did, to be mindful, to enjoy nature and the beauty of the world around us, to be yourself. Don't worry about the trivial things like mascara and fancy shoes, but focus on the important things like the people around you. I'll never forget when you all came out to Australia and we stayed at the Moore River Beach House. It was a wild, wet and windy winter's day. Well, that didn't put you off for a second. Jeff couldn't believe it when you got the girls ready in their boots and waterproofs, and off we went down to the beach to get soaked and sandblasted. That's nothing, you said. You should try a winter's beach walk in Scotland. My Auntie Jill, always keen for an adventure. As I grew up, I was amazed at how organised you were. Every year, without fail, your birthday card would appear right on time. You were so reliable that in fact, Jeff and I would count on your card to remind us of our own wedding anniversary. My Auntie Jill, always there for you. More recently, I began to appreciate how much family meant to you. I watched you tenderly nurse your baby girls when they were born, and gently care for Nana and Grandad as they grew old. You reached out to guide me in the terrifying world of parenthood. You gave great advice about how to be a mum, and if I can do even half as good a job as you, then I should be proud. You are an incredible auntie, an incredible sister, and an incredible mum. My Auntie Jill, always in our hearts.
I didn't actually meet her very often, but we had a strong, shared lifelong interest in animal biology, though she was a true professional while I have never been more than a serious hobbyist. Whenever we were in touch, she showed great interest in what I was doing in my fields of interest, and I recall her insisting on coming to see my collection on the only visit to Plymouth in which she was able to do so, despite being short of time. I'm so glad I took the opportunity of spending that afternoon with Jill's family on my way to Elgin last year. She was not just an excellent host and helped with various stages of my journey, but was so lively when she insisted on taking me out to see the area, that it was difficult to believe she also had a serious illness. Jill came across to me as an energetic and enthusiastic character, and that just about summed it up. Great memories which will never be forgotten.
I first met Jill about 8 years ago when she came for a horse riding lesson at Kingsbarn. We persevered with this slightly mad horse for 6 months despite Jill's bumps along the way. Our journey started with horses and continued right up to the building of Eat, Sleep, Ride, to which Jill was completely at the heart of, driving 2 hours from Broxburn to Tynemouth to help me nail up signs or draw pictures for the kids to experience on their educational pony walks. Throughout the whole time of knowing Jill, I also got to know her family really well and attended Hannah's school plays each year, had Nina down for riding camps whenever it was possible, went round for dinner where Jill would look after you like you were a 5-star guest. That was something Jill always did, was look after you. Jill, you're all over my computer, you're all over my Facebook, you're always in my heart. I still have the files you sent me for my no entry diagrams saved on my laptop. I loved you, Jill. I still love you. You'll always be a part of me, and you'll always be a part of this business, which, you know, will hopefully continue to help many more children and young people in their time of need. And, you know, I hope it can be a place of solace for Nina that she can use whenever she needs to. Your memory will always live on through us. Thanks for being in my life, Jill. I think that's probably the biggest thing I wanted to say was thanks for being you.
Hi, my name is Rosa, and Jill and I were best friends all through secondary school. Seems a long time ago now. Jill was always the brainy academic one, and I was the sporty athletic one. Jill always knew from the beginning where she wanted to be in life. Me? I didn't have a clue. I always admired Jill for knowing that. Jill was so smart, so funny, so brave, and a truly great friend. I will miss her, but always will hold her close to my heart. Rest in peace, beautiful. I love you.
Hello, my name's Jerry Beasley. Roderick and I have been friends of Jill and Johan. First met Jill in Bristol when she was living with Mel and Vasily. And I've been looking through photos and found a photo of Jill from our wedding, Roderick and my wedding in 1992. And she's in the pub kitchen. We got married on Lundy Island. And she's in the pub kitchen, and she's got a massive, great vat really to make potatoes in, and it's a gorgeous photo of her. She looks really, really happy, and her face is very, very much alive. And apart from grey hair, she looks much the same then as she did now. And what I love, what brought this to mind was just her excitement and enthusiasm and energy for what she called bucket cookery. So we were cooking for 100 people on the island for the wedding, and she really was very excited. And there's another photo of her carrying a massive sack of potatoes across the island, and peeling them all with that enthusiasm. That's lovely. Other people needed a bit more sort of hand holding, but and that was fine. But Gill was absolutely just, she said, in her element with her bucket cookery, and it was just lovely to have her there. When I think of Gill, I think of her aliveness and her energy, and we're going to miss her hugely.
My first memory of Gill is when that brave woman met my brother's family at Cape St. Francis. I just loved her British accent that was so much more civilized than our grinding and earthly Afrikaner English. Not that Johan is really an Afrikaner, is he? And although Gill's accent fooled me about her properness, she shattered at least some of that perception when they announced a day later that they want to get married on the beach right away. From the first, her being British didn't mean that she was stuck up, as my stereotypes went. No, I experienced her as being very down to earth and without any fitariasis. A strong woman that is not in need of any pampering. I might count the number of times I met Gill in person on my fingers, but I surely don't have enough digits to name all the birthday and Christmas gifts we received. I think all the presents she sent us might be a window on who Gill was. Even though I'm not really a presents person, her appreciation of every one of us shone through with every gift. And her planning was unbelievable in this. I remember Gill as a giving person who wanted to create a space for people to live in. Because of the distance between South Africa and Scotland, I didn't know Gill as well as I would have liked. Perhaps that is the reason why, when I think of her as someone in relation to my brother. I'm sure Gill sometimes gave Johan hell, in a nice way, but it was very clear that Gill was a wonderful partner to my brother and was good for him in so many ways. For that I am very thankful.
When I met Gill, I was just so excited that my brother had found someone so funny, kind and lovely that was such a perfect fit for him, and who clearly loved him. As time went on, I realized that she was also exceptionally clever, brave, adventurous, and had done amazing things, been to the most exceptional places and accomplished stuff that I could only dream of. Never one to boast, we only got to know snippets of this through listening to her most entertaining stories. Knowing more about Gill could easily have made me feel small, but the exact opposite was true. She had a way of downplaying herself and making you feel amazing instead. Later, I saw her do this special magic with my children too. I remember the day at Cape St. Francis when Johan and Gill announced casually, "We're thinking of getting married. Would tomorrow suit you?" I thought it was the coolest wedding invite ever. And I felt so privileged being part of the small wedding party that stopped along the road on the way to Clarence to pick flowers, and to be allowed to coordinate the photo shoots in the veld later. I remember Gill insisting on some photos with Johan wearing his leather hat, saying that's what he was wearing when she met him. Later, at our own short notice wedding, the roles were reversed and it was Gill, the perfect big sister, picking wild flowers for my hair and bouquet, and telling us where to walk, sit and pose for photos, and doing all she could to make our day special. When we visited last year, I was determined to take some special photos, but couldn't get one of her alone. For either she was pulling one of her children or the whole family together, or trying to wangle it so that she could be the one taking the photos instead. For me, this was just another example of how Gill was never one to love the limelight. It was always about letting others shine, while tirelessly in the background, she was the queen of support and treats.
When our family of 6 invaded Gill's house a year ago for a week-long visit, we were overwhelmed by her generosity and warmth. Our every need was met, and mealtimes we were treated to her exceptional culinary skill and engaging company. My grown daughters were introduced to the joy of a good gin and tonic, and my whiskey repertoire trebled. It was such a joy to be in her company and to be reminded who she was. Being a surgeon by profession, I've had inside knowledge of her illness Jill beat every odd by a country mile. It seemed her warrior spirit raged until the very end to buy the ones she loved even one more day, regardless of the personal cost. She must be the bravest person I have ever known.
I will always remember Tannie Gill as the lively, animated, extremely kind, strong and welcoming woman that I was privileged enough to get to know last year. From my first bubbly car ride with her, I could tell that she was incredible. Every time my mom bakes potatoes, I am disappointed because however much anyone tries, I don't believe anyone's potatoes will ever be better than hers. These contributed a lot to the weight I gained after the holiday, as well as hearty meals and delicious puddings that I will never forget. Both the warmth they've made me feel in my stomach and in my heart. She insisted on buying us each something of our liking, and since I hadn't come up with anything by the end of our holiday, she sent me home with 6 boxes of my new favourite cereal, Curiously Cinnamon, which, regrettably, but not surprisingly, were finished within 2 weeks. She gave me purple nail polish for my birthday, and I painted my fingers with them this week, and never realised how beautiful it was and how much I actually liked purple. I will definitely start wearing this colour more, and every time I see my nails, I will be reminded of the beautiful, vibrant purple that is Tannie Gill.
I remember Tannie Gill so well. The reason for this is that she always had a smile on her face. People couldn't tell she was sick. She always kept everyone going strong, and she made amazing food. She always let us eat as much food as we wanted. She never let people get angry or sad. I had so much fun in Scotland, and I think that the biggest reason why it was so enjoyable was that Jill was an amazing person, and I think I speak for everyone who has met her when I say that we all miss her. We are sad that she is not here because she was delightful, and although we cannot see her beautiful face and hear the wonderful way she laughs and smiles and makes everyone around her happy by doing these things, we know that she will stay in our hearts forever, and we will remember her every word and smile and laugh because she has earned it.
My most vivid memories of Tannie Gill are from the time we went to visit in Scotland last year. From the moment we arrived in the rental car at the Linlithgow parking lot, she appeared with a massive smile and a hug and an energy in her eyes. We were immediately partners in crime as she whisked me and my sisters away in her car before my mom and Wim Johan could arrive back from shopping. I felt as if I knew her so well, not as if we lived on different continents. She took me to the second-hand shops I had been so excited to see and refused to hear a word of me paying for my own items. She mischievously convinced my parents to let me try my first shot of tequila, while she told stories of her childhood and I hung on every word. From yet more stories, I have caught the habit of every once in a while asking for a Gill and tonic, a name that I will always use on purpose. Having the privilege of making this video in her memory has given me insight into much more of her life than I have ever known about. She has impacted so many people, and her influence literally stretches across the world, from Britain to Australia, from California to the Seychelles, from New Zealand to the Comores, from South Africa to the very sky. I have felt blessed to get to know more about her life, her beautiful, beautiful life.
You saw the whole of the